Hey everybody, Brad again, and in this video I'm actually going to describe what each of these buttons do, and more importantly, some of the details as to how they operate. If that's something you're interested in, please stick around. Okay, a little close up here as I dive into these buttons. Clearly, some of these will be pretty self-explanatory. For example, this one is clearly the one you push when you want to plug your car in and actually charge the thing. And this one here is what you push to turn off or on the vehicle stability, traction control, etc., etc. So that's typical. If you push that, which you'll hear me do, push and hold it, you see I've turned it on. That's cool. You push and hold it, you'll turn it off actually there. So I obviously want to leave it on, which is its default. That's cool. The other few here though, for example, this one is your, it's not to be confused with your lane keep assist. This is your road departure mitigation, which is something else entirely. And I'm actually going to show you how to configure that in the infotainment system, because you can actually determine at what point it will take over. And I've actually tested that. I've moved it from wide to narrow, and it's at narrow right now, which I'll explain in a second. And you'll actually see it show up on the dash. So I'm going to do that when I take the car for a spin. But for now, let's put that back on because I want to keep that there. This one here is the collision mitigation braking system. So that's the thing, again, with the radar up front, is going to make sure that I don't crash into something that happens to be in front of me. So to turn this one off, I'll pull the camera up here, but you push and hold it, and then it makes quite a noise. And then there you go. It tells you that the collision mitigation is off. Now that's something I can't imagine you wouldn't want to have on all the time. I can't remember any time that I've ever wanted to hit something that was in front of me. So there, I'll push it back on, push and hold till it beeps. There we go, so that's back on. Now this other one here, which took me a little bit to figure out, I should have put my reading glasses on because apparently I can't see this. I thought this had something to do with the cameras, because the way that trumpeting thing seems to show that it's coming from where the camera would on the windshield here. But what that actually is if you push that, that turns off the audible warnings for what I think is the braking, the brake warning sign that flashes in the dash. So I'm going to test that because I actually haven't been able to do that yet. I've only pushed it a handful of times and never actually encountered that situation. So I'm going to do that. Plus I'm also going to do, as I'm driving, I'm going to show you folks on the dash how this thing turns on and off or shows up, as well as the lane keep assist. So they're actually two different systems, and I want to show you how to configure them and how they tend to operate. So just before I actually fire the car up here, so to speak, I want to show you folks how you configure the road departure mitigation settings for how quickly, or rather how soon, the thing will actually jump in. So let's get to the menu first, and I'll explain each of them as best I can. So go to settings, obviously from the home screen, vehicle, and then driver assist system setup. So we want the road departure mitigation setting, of course, which is right there. So normal, wide, warning only, or narrow. So in normal, what it does, as I read in the manual, is it will take the inner part of the lane, or sorry, the inner part of the line on either side of the car that it senses. So if you're driving along and there's a yellow line to your left, it will use the inside edge of that line as its the thing that it tracks in order to determine whether it should intervene. If you go to wide, that actually moves it to the outside of that, so a few inches or whatever, how thick the typical painted line is. The warning only is self-explanatory. It'll warn you, but it won't do anything, and it'll actually show you what that warning is. The narrow actually says it picks up and will intervene a few inches inside of the inner edge of the painted line on either side. So I'm thinking predominantly left, of course, because that's what's in my mind, but left or right. So what that does is it, as the word narrow implies, is it actually shrinks the the space that it wants to keep you in, as opposed to letting you get a little closer to the lines, or in the case of wide, actually touch the line. So that's how you configure it. Again, as I said, I put mine to narrow, and I did that this morning, and I've noticed that it's the first time, frankly, I've seen it show up in my dash, and it's been popping up in white right next to the lane keep assist, or the steering required flash that's in orange that you'll see. So that's how you configure that. Let me plug this thing in on my chest here and I'll show you what it's like as we're going. And at the same time, of course, I'll show you that the that audible warning button down there and what it does too. So hang on, another switch here. Thanks, folks. Okay, so here I am, folks. Forgive me, this is a really noisy road I'm driving on. I should have picked a better one. But again, I got the road departure mitigation system set to narrow, which means that the system, the camera, will pick up the, it will actually, so it picks up the lines on either side of the car, obviously, but it will choose to react when it senses the car is getting close to the inner, a couple of inches or so inside of both of these lines. So whereas before, as I mentioned, on wide, it will actually pick the outside edge of the lines before it chooses to react. Normal is the inside edge of the lines on the road, and then again, narrow is it actually starts to do something. See, there it is. It's actually even corrected itself, and the lane departure warning came on at the same time, so that's pretty cool. Damn, unfortunately, it's right out of battery juice. That's too bad. Let's try it the other side here. Yeah, there we go. So it's doing something, plus it's warning me that something has happened. Now let's try it with the lane keep assist on, because I'm pretty sure this morning, because again, I set this morning to narrow just to get a sense of what's going on. I'm pretty sure that it actually did it to me this morning while using lane keep assist. So here I'm getting pretty close to this side. Oh no, the lane keep assist is keeping me. The road mitigation has decided not to step in. It's doing a good job of holding me there. Let's see what happens. Okay, well, in here, now I'm curious. If I turn that off, steering require, okay, I'm trying to do that. And then road, yeah, there it goes. So it will work together, but I guess if the lane keep assist is working well enough, it won't let the car get close enough to where the road departure mitigation comes into play. So interesting. It's an interesting little thing that I'm trying to figure out here. So the only other thing I have yet to be able to test is the audible warning for the brake, because I've turned that off, what I think I've turned off. So let's see if I'm going to, don't really like getting as close to cars in front of me. Yeah, there it is. It does not come on. So that's as close to that car as I want to get, thanks. So that's a pretty easy button to figure out. If it's orange, the upper right button, if it's orange, then that means when the brake warning signal comes at you that it doesn't do the audible beep as well, which it seems to do about 5 times every time. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And in rush hour traffic, sometimes you gotta cinch up next to the guy in front of you. So I'm surprised I didn't bother learning what that was before now, because that's actually something occasionally I would use. Now note, the default is that will when you start the car, it will always be on, which means that you will get the audible warning when the brake thing starts to flash at you. So anyway, well, that's kind of, again, a bit of a long-winded explanation for how some of this stuff works, but I'm pleased to know that I've actually seen the road departure mitigation start to work. That's cool. That's, again, beyond the lane keep assist. They're 2 different systems. Again, though, I've said I'm sure they use the same hardware. They must, but they're obviously 2 different sets of settings, if I can say that. And then the other button is you can actually turn off, again, the collision avoidance, the collision mitigation system, which I'm not really interested in ever turning off, because I think I've said before, I can't remember the last time there was something in front of me that I actually wanted to hit. So that one will stay on. Lane keep assist I'll use whenever I need to use it. The road departure mitigation will always be on, because again, why wouldn't you? And again, I've got it set to narrow, so I'm going to mess around with it there and drive it the next few days to see. And if it's annoying, then obviously I can adjust it. But I do want to see, you know, again, it's finally to the point where I've crossed the threshold that it'll turn on. So that's interesting. So And then, yeah, what else? Traction control, obviously, and then the charging button. So that brings me to the end. Those handful of buttons on the bottom left that we don't always know what the hell they do. Again, I learned something too. I didn't really know that was an audible warning switch that you could just turn off. So anyway, folks, thanks again for watching. As always, I appreciate all of your attention and comments and your patience when I'm driving and talking. I'm often not the most brief. So thank you, everyone, every single one of you, for every single minute of watch time you give me, and every like and every subscribe. So thank you again, and I look forward to chatting with you all again in the next video. Bye for now.